It wasn't Kyle Rittenhouse on trial in Wisconsin. It was the right to self-defense on trial. Right. And if I was convicted, no one would ever be privileged to defend their life against attackers.
Kyle Rittenhouse defending himself in an exclusive sit-down with Fox News' Tucker Carlson that will air in its entirety tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be watching. It's his first interview since a jury acquitted him on all charges in the shooting deaths of 2 men during last summer's violent protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This as some are now calling for the media, calling them out rather for potential defamation of the then 17-year-old. In August of 2020, CNN tweeted this. Anthony Huber, 26, was among the victims killed in the shooting at a protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin. His girlfriend says he launched at the armed individual to protect her and the people nearby. He did a heroic thing, she said. And under the headline, "Suspect in Kenosha Killings Lionized the Police," the New York Times framed an article this way. Kyle Rittenhouse, accused of killing 2 people during protest of a police shooting, faces 6 criminal counts. His social media accounts showed strong support for officers. MSNBC's Joy Reid saying this: legal experts rip Trump for fomenting deadly violence and ethnic cleansing with Kyle Rittenhouse defense. Absurd. And other commentators quickly painted Rittenhouse as a white supremacist and a crazed vigilante.
There's no legal explanation for it. There's a cultural and political one. Again, it's the white supremacy that the Trump administration has enabled and endorsed.
The statements that he was responding to protect small business owners, that could be read very much as encouraging a sort of vigilante justice.
And you would think the media would change their tune after a jury of Kyle Rittenhouse's peers found him innocent on all charges, but rolled the tape. Here they are.
Rittenhouse drove in from Illinois armed for battle.
We know now is that the jury bought the narrative of Kyle Rittenhouse being a victim.
The fact that white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws.
Welcome to the modern Republican Party. This is what these people want, and this is what a majority of white people vote for.
Guy, they're still at it.
I mean, it's just breathtaking. Some of the things being said, being written. I can understand in the initial shock over what happened, and there's 2 people dead, and there's riots in the streets happening in Kenosha back last year, people perhaps getting a few things wrong. But as you noted, Kaylee, the misinformation continues to flow to this day. I mean, I saw example after example over the weekend of news articles from actual news organizations, supposedly with layers of editorial oversight, getting basic facts wrong about the case, about the trial, about the Jacob Blake police shooting from last summer that was sort of the triggering event to the rioting. And what really struck me, and it wasn't just news organizations, colleges and universities putting out statements, public figures, celebrities, not even pretending to have even passing knowledge of the facts of the case or the evidence. And I feel like there's just this cultural script that we have. Like it's just a giant American morality play where there's a right side and a wrong side. They inject race into everything, regardless of what the fact pattern is. And if that's your hammer, everything's a nail, and people are just banging away at it with no interest, apparently, in getting details correct. And details, of course, matter across case to case. So we have larger truths being spewed all over the place that are, in fact, not truths at all, untruths, falsehoods. And whether Rittenhouse has a case here for defamation, I'll leave that to the attorneys on the couch. But the misinformation and wrong-headed reaction to this, and demagoguery, frankly, is it's a blizzard, and it's mind-blowing. It makes your head spin.
It's really despicable. And then you have the President of the United States at 2:29 p.m. on Friday. He came out, he said this.
Stand by your past comments equating him to white supremacy?
Well, look, I stand by what the jury has concluded. The jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
The system works. And then John Cooper of Heritage points out 72 minutes later, he changed his tune. He said this: while the verdict in Kenosha will leave many Americans feeling angry and concerned, myself included, we must acknowledge that the jury has spoken. I remain steadfast in my commitment to do everything in my power to ensure that every American is treated equally with fairness and dignity under the law. So, Julian, we went from the process worked to he's angry.
Yeah, I think to Guy's point that he made a moment ago, for some reason with this trial, this case, it was particularly hard for facts to break through all the emotion. Two of the most persistent, incorrect facts that have pervaded this entire media landscape during this trial are the idea that Kyle traveled across state lines with a firearm, which he did not. Also the idea that he shot black men, which he did not. That said, this case is particularly tragic because Kyle may have been acquitted, but he's not a hero here. There are no heroes. There are no winners. There is no victory lap for Kyle or anybody else to take. We, the American people, are left yet again with death and destruction, the threat of more protests, more riots. It seems like yet again America is kind of on this razor-thin knife's edge, and everything is flammable and could, go pear-shaped in an instant. I'll leave it to you guys and to our viewers to decide if they feel that President Biden's comments hurt or helped.
Now, Kennedy, I was working in the White House when the former president, President Trump, was asked about this, and he said, look, it looks like Kyle Rittenhouse was fleeing a violent situation, but we'll wait for the investigation to occur, to which Joy Reid accused the former president of ethnic cleansing with his Kyle Rittenhouse defense, the so-called fact checkers. You had PolitiFact come out and say that he was not fleeing, and the video showed that. And you had the AP fact checker saying that Trump spoke in defense of someone who opposed racial justice protesters. So even the fact checkers getting this wrong from day one.
Well, the lawyers are going to get it right because I'm sure there's an army of them rushing to Kyle Rittenhouse right now, keeping track of all the things that people have said. And they're going to be very good at differentiating what is protected speech and what is slander, because his reputation has been destroyed throughout this entire thing with facts that have been entirely made up. Yeah. It's like when you call someone a white supremacist over and over and over again, you are doing so much reputational damage, especially someone who's headed to college, that, I believe that there will be compensation that follows this.
Yeah, to that end, Nicholas Sandmann, obviously a much different context, the Covington Catholic boy who is totally maligned, he brought up to $800 million in defamation lawsuits and settled some of them with Washington Post, CNN. Emily, the legal expert here, does Kyle Rittenhouse have a case?
He does, and I want to draw a couple distinctions for viewers because we're hearing a lot of legal analysis on the inevitable success likely of his defamation suits. But the first thing is that Nicholas Sandmann's success was based on the lie and the amplification of such that he blocked the activists. It's not that he was called a racist. So that's number one. And number two, we've often talked about the movement of the conservative movement to do away with that malice standard because the balance between protecting free speech and opinion sort of abuts against that malice standard, which is so hard to overcome when you're dealing with a public figure. I also want viewers to understand that there's a public figure definition and a limited public figure definition. And that is sort of a way that here defense will argue, Kyle Rittenhouse as plaintiff in this regard will argue that he's limited, which means that he didn't voluntarily thrust himself into the vortex of public conversation. It just occurred because of national media exposure. And finally, just remember that courts really do protect opinion, especially in public controversies like these. And so there is an error on the side of First Amendment opinions. But to the point, if it destroys your employability, if it destroys your educational opportunities, if there's quantifiable damages, then absolutely he will be successful. So I don't deny that, but I just wanted to let viewers know of those nuances for them to be aware of.
And he should be successful because what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse is an absolute travesty, and the media should be ashamed of themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.